report. So we had some activity yesterday at the rail, and so I'm going to ask Senator Owens to give us an update of what happened at the rail.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we had a meeting yesterday at the rail with Senate Commerce, and we pulled 2340, which is the remediation exemption for property in Johnson County, back off the table. We made an amendment that was agreed to amongst the majority of the parties and most of the concerned parties on the committee, and then kick that out favorably. So it is below the line, which certainly puts us in a much better position to conference on it. So if I could ask Amelia to hand out a copy of that amendment. That way you guys can see it, because what I would like to do is take the Senate amended version and insert it into one of our shells 2169, if you guys are agreeable.
After you get it handed up, give us an update.
Mr. Chairman, while Connie hands that out, you will see the proposed language there on page 2, relating to some, I'll wait till you can kind of see it there. On page 2, beginning, it would be starting in line 38 and adding to the end of the sentence that provides that any person owning such non-residential property shall be responsible for the cost of investigation, removal, remediation, et cetera. If the person converts such property to residential property, that's currently in the House bill. The added language would be also that would also apply if such property is used for a daycare facility. And then it would go on to provide for a notice on the deed that there is a potential presence of legally registered pesticidal commercial chemical products on the property that may need to be remediated as determined by KDHE if the property is ever used for residential purposes, and that the notice shall run with the land.
Give you a moment to understand what we just did.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have one question about the amendment. So, right, currently we have an opportunity to develop this land because the Panasonic plant is there, and all of this is standing in the way of progress, and progress is tremendous there. My question is, if there's a building that gets built, a commercial building that gets built, and then there is a daycare that goes into that building, if a business there decides to open its office for a daycare, do they have to dig up the parking lot at that point?
My opinion, we'd have to run that by KDHE, but make sure. But my opinion that that probably, because of that statement in there, we would have to put that in there. So that would probably be something I would not put within my facility if I was designing a facility because of that statement on there, and make that a freestanding facility. So, but my opinion doesn't count. I'm going to ask it. That's not what I said. So I'm going to ask the revisers to give us their opinion.
Welcome to the world of having a strong chair, vice chair.
Well, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds with fact patterns that may or may not happen. I mean, because the provision provides that responsibility would be there if the property is used for a daycare facility.
We do have facilities well, we have one facility in Ark City, Kansas that is a meat packing plant they chose to put a freestanding daycare, and that was what I would anticipate that to be, is a freestanding daycare. The reason that is in there basically is a daycare facility could be classified as a commercial piece of property. So we'll make sure that's the reason that's in there.
Could we give the reviser some leeway to massage that wording so that a freestanding type, like if it's built for the purpose of a daycare center, that would trigger it, but if you have an office building there that ends up having an office for daycare, that's not the same thing.
Senator Ware.
Thank you. I have some real hesitation about that. I mean, to put adults where there's been all these chemicals kind of makes me a little nervous to begin with, but kids kind of crosses the line, it seems like.
I mean, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but at the original Sunflower Army ammunition plant, it was home to one of the largest on-site daycares in Johnson County. That how else would the women have been able to go to work? I have seen the pictures of it. I worked at the Johnson County Museum. So I mean, so it's one of those things where I think that we are probably fine with the House position.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I'm not so concerned about that. I mean, we even could, depending on if you wanted to, put in there something about, just like we did on the residential side, adding the discretion of KDHE in a situation like that. But I think part of this is trying to solve that ambiguity. And so I certainly don't have any objections to allowing that to be massaged a little bit, but I certainly want to have consensus from our members.
Again, as far as what you'd like.
I just wanted to massage it a little bit to make sure that, I mean, if it's built for freestanding daycare, that's one thing, but if I'm a business within the office complex and I decide that I'm going to let my employees bring their kids to work and I'm going to hire somebody to take care of them during the day, that's not really a daycare facility. It wasn't built for the purpose of a daycare.
So and then this is something revisers might want to think about with language, but if we're going to build freestanding daycare, it must be taken care of. We understand that. But if we're building a 1,000,000 square foot facility out there and put 1,000 square foot daycare, the main use of that facility is for manufacturing or commercial purposes. That's really what we're going to, that's what I would say that we're going to rule by.
And the dirt's already moved. There's a parking lot and a building. Right. There's really no chemicals to be inhaled or touched or.
Yes.
Maybe a suggestion here, and we just changed at the very top line, or such property is built for a daycare facility versus used for a daycare facility. Thoughts on that?
I think we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, still some reservations, but I see I'm outnumbered, so.
With that, we'll ask the revisers to change that. Do you have a?
May I just confirm the language that you just read so that I have it marked appropriately here? So on that first line of the balloon, it would be changing, it would read, or such property is built. Do you want built or constructed? How about
Sure.
constructed?
Sounds more official.
Constructed as a daycare facility?
Yep. If that is agreeable by everybody, then I would, I don't know if you need a motion or anything, as long as we're all in agreement to change that language, and then,
Yes.
The House is agreeable.
okay. Okay, then we'll make that change on the amendment. We will then add 2340 as amended to House Bill 2169 and pass that out of conference. Everybody on board with that? Yes, and I need to remove the contents of 2169 first. Thank you. And then 2340 as amended, added to 2169 and passed out of conference.
So with that, everybody agrees on that one. Okay, thank you. So the next item we'd like to visit about would be 229 into 30. And so, Senator Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you'll recall, yesterday, we added the contents of Senate Bill 229 into Senate Bill 30. We left that open. Having reviewed everything here and not seeing anything else that's germane, we would just like to go ahead and close 30 and pass that out.
Can we discuss that in a little bit? Let's see what happens on anything else. If we're going to come back, we might want to leave it open for other discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I recall, we made a proposal to the House for their consideration, so I'd like to hear where they're out on 2119.
Well, I would say that you got us to come off of our original proposal of just letting it lapse completely. I have a written offer for you. So it's housing. Housing is an issue in the state of Kansas. And over the last 3 years, we have spent quite a bit of money and gone quite a bit into debt to the tune of at least $750 million on that one program. While other programs in housing have dwindled that promote home ownership. And that's the American dream here, to make houses affordable, not just rentable. And rather than build structures for wealthy investors, I'd like to get more towards building homes for individuals to move into, gain equity, and live the American dream. And so the House offer is to limit the current year tax credits to $20 million, which would be $200 million because of the 10-year. And the reason we're doing that is because last year they went as far as $33 million. And if we leave it uncapped, and this would be the last year to leave it uncapped, who knows what they'll end up spending, because there is no cap. Then, since we spent $750 million when we were told it was a $25 million limit or fiscal note, for the next 4 years, we would not add money to that program. After that, in fiscal year 30 and 31, we would get back to the $25 million limit, the fiscal note, by offering $2.5 million a year for 10 years, or your choice, $5 million for 5 years each year. And that would get us back to the fiscal note of $25 million that we originally signed off on. And then the program would sunset after the 2031 funding. And some of the savings that we would do each year, we would fund moderate income housing at $3.4 million a year, and Kansas Housing Income Tax Credit at $1.6 million a year, so for a total of $5 million a year. Those programs are the ones that promote home ownership, and the cost per unit is much lower than it is funding wealthy investors to rent to people. That's the, and then, of course, as always, all funding for the programs is subject to appropriations. And that's the House offer.
We appreciate that offer. The question that I have is the existing that we're now at $25 million. Is that correct? And you were saying reduce that down to $20 million?
Right. Originally, we were told it was 25 million. However, they spent 33 million last year, and that's $330 million in debt for the state of Kansas. And so we came off the 25 million to 20.
It's just capping it at 20.
Right.
For the existing program.
Right. For this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is obviously something we're going to have to take some time to try to absorb, but a couple of concerns first and foremost that come to mind. The low-income housing tax credit was not designed for home ownership. It was designed for affordable places to live. We had the other programs that are designed for affordable home ownership. And so I feel like by trying to take LIHTC and fit it into a home ownership box was not originally the intent of why it was created on a federal level and why we kind of adopted it on a state level. As I understand, currently there are approximately 6,600 units, some of which rent for as low as $500 a month. So we're dealing with people that can, that are low enough income that more than likely would never be able to afford to purchase a home under really any circumstances at $500 a month. Yet we've created this to solve a need. Part of that is homelessness, part of that is poverty. There's a number of reasons. And so I have a little hesitation on just putting the brakes on something that, at least thus far, based on projections, is going to bring this to a screeching halt. Because as I understand it, if we drop these credits to zero for the next 4 years, this program will effectively go away. And maybe that, well, I wouldn't say maybe, that is the intent of the House, because that's your guys' position, was to eliminate it altogether. So I have some hesitations, but I definitely want to have some conversations with my colleagues before we make any other counter proposals or considerations.
This is a very interesting proposal. I think there's some merit to some of the things that are in this. Do we have any other business to do at this time during this meeting? There's nothing else that we have on the table. So what I would like to do would be to reschedule another, I'd like to think about this for a little bit. And
Yeah, I mean, it's.
But I'd like to think about this and come back after we go in session at 9 o'clock.
Well, we're in caucus.
Oh, yeah, caucus, and then we go back in at 10, right? So after session is set, we'd like to meet again and take a look at it.
Okay, I would point out that you mentioned 6,600 units. They're not open yet. They're still being built. And so there will be 6,600 units coming on the market over the next year or so. renting for $500 a month, I'm not, that's news to me, and if that's what it is, that's what it is, but I don't believe that, most of the units, I believe, can be occupied by people that are not, poverty-stricken, and they can rent them for a lot more. And so of the 6,600 units, if all of them were being rented for $500 a month, that is a completely different story. However, that's not what it is. So if you want to come back with an offer that says that, I'm in, 100%.
Senator Clayton, or Representative Clayton.
Oh my God, I'll deal with the insult later. I'll go cry in private. But no, one of the things that I wanted to touch on as well, I do not think that this is even just for the poverty stricken. If we think about the housing issues, again, this is the Commerce Committee, and one of the things that we should always keep in mind is workforce needs. And one of the biggest workforce needs that we have in the state would be housing. We have to have a place for a lot of these folks to live. I guess they'd be out of poverty if we paid them livable wages. We could always, add that in. But in the meantime, I am not in support of this offer.
Yes, Senator Rowland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, and to be clear, I said some of which, not all of which, just to be clear, rent for that. So I do hear what you're saying. I understand your point of view. I want to do a little bit more research. But I do want to ask you, as of our last meeting yesterday, your leadership said you were to hold on SB 51 and 52. Has anything changed there?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair. We are still prohibited from negotiating on anything that did not come out of Commerce that could change. It's my understanding that it is the plan to run 51 across the floor today and negotiate it on the floor. That might have changed since yesterday, but that is my understanding on what's going to happen today. 52, I don't know that it has a chance of survival at this point. And that is not my decision. That's just, I'm the messenger on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 52, it did pass out of House tax, and I believe the numbers were 9-14 on a division. That's pretty decent numbers when you think about, and I realize we've run into most of the trouble with that on the House side, but it has not really come up for discussion with the entire committee of the whole at all this session. So I don't think it's as bad as they say it is. I think that, we're just holding so we can get them.
So with that, I think we will consider the House offer during our session, and when we meet back again, we can come back and come back with some type of agreement on that, we hope. And then on 51 and 52, we'll see what kind of movement they get during your session, and maybe you can visit with your leadership and find out what they really are thinking on those two. And that's come back and meet after a recess or adjournment after the 10 o'clock session. Okay. So with that, we are adjourned.